right, welcome back to Heater Dynasty Podcast. And I made the mistake the last time of cutting it off too early. So I'm going to keep talking so that I can play the whole intro song. All right? Cool. Yeah. Was that enough time? I sure hope so. All right. So anyway, this week we are talking about the New England division. We're going to be breaking that division down team by team and giving you our analysis of what makes a good team in a dynasty league and what makes a bad team. And but first, I want to start with a segment that I think went pretty well last week. Don't you, Mark? The 60-second salesman?
I like that. That last week.
Cool. Let's see how much you like it this week, though, because we're turning the tables. You have to answer the question this week, and I will be timing you.
I thought that was your segment. I thought I always asked you.
Yeah, well, not today, my friend. Are you ready for your question?
Nope.
All right. So, ready or not, your question is, explain to us in 60 seconds why your league should have a Superflex. And go.
Okay. All right. So for quarterbacks, you got 12 teams. You're starting 12 quarterbacks a week. It's pretty much just the elite category that are starting each week. You're going to have starting quarterbacks there on waivers to pick up, just to pick up and toss in the lineup. So trying to add a little more decision making, a little more tough decisions in that process. Like when we think the running backs, sometimes you got to start the rough running back in there if things are going bad. So you just have to make tough decisions. It's all about pre-planning, being proactive, and getting those guys on draft day to have some depth. You get hurt, you get bye weeks, you got to make those tough decisions. But if things do go awry, you still have the option of putting in another position in that slot that it allows you to make your team how you want, a little more customization.
Cat! All right, not too shabby. Not too shabby for your first try. I already was bought into the Superflex, but as of now, you didn't do such a poor job that I don't want it anymore.
Would you say you're super bought into the Superflex?
I would not.
Okay.
But mostly just because, I am super bought in, but I just didn't like your analysis. But, anyway. This is going great already, guys. I'm so happy. So, if you haven't had a chance, we just released our video of our projected rankings for this upcoming season. We broke down each game, each matchup, and picked our winners and losers. And from that, we've come up with our rankings for Mark and I, our consensus rankings of the 2020 season. So consensus rankings, begrudgingly, we have Mark at the top with 10 wins. Then Al Beasy comes in second with 9 wins. Myself in third with 9 wins. We all know Mark, 8.5 wins. John Staggers, 7.5 wins. Seymour, 7.5 wins. Burkholder, 6.5 wins. Ben Chapman, 5.5 wins. GM Newell, 5 wins. Woofooty Hulk, 4 wins. Connor with 4 wins. And P. Knower with a measly 1.5 wins.
If you disagree, do it yourself. Come on here and defend it. Tell us we're wrong. We'll love it.
Absolutely. But today we're focused on 4 teams that make up the New England division. And we're going to start with our top ranked player, Al Beasy.
So I'll handle Al Beasy here. He was one, when I was first looking at his team, it didn't jump off the table to me. But the more I looked at it, the more I liked it. Like that starting lineup, it's quality. Like Drew Brees, Kamara, Jacobs, Godwin, and his meteoric rise last year. Though I don't know why that's a phrase. I've never seen a meteor rise, but I wanted to use it.
Is it a phrase?
I don't think so. Did I make it up?
I think you made it up, dude. I'm not sure what you're trying. What are you trying to say? So meteoric rise, Yeah, I don't know, dude. But
so significant of a rise.
No, I mean, I understand the concept. So, I mean, I guess it's effective.
Meteoric. Get it? Moving on. We've got Cooper touchdown catching Cup. Michael Gallup, Jared Cook, Mark Ingram, Jared Goff rounding out the starting roster. There really isn't a hole or a gap in there as I'm looking at it. Looking at our strength by position, I got him at 7 quarterback. You have him at 9. And running back, both got him up there at 3. Receiver, I think this is where we make a little bit bigger difference. I have him at 7. You have him at 4. Tight end, both at 9. Flex at 3.
Yeah, I guess that's where I would challenge you, Mark, is with Chris Godwin's meteoric rise, right, as you said. Why do you have him so much different? Because with Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp, Michael Gallup, expand on that a little bit for me.
Yeah. So I think the top 3 are very good quality. I think Gallup, I have him at 1B in Dallas, okay, as like on their roster. So probably like wide receiver 2 for me. So I think the 3 are quality. I just think once you get to 4, I don't think Judy's going to have it right away. I think there's a big drop off behind there, so it's more of a depth ranking, okay, for me. So if something happens, and that's kind of what I feel like for his whole team. I feel like if Kamara Jacobs goes down, Ingram, is still quality, but if Dobbins overtakes him at some point, he can get pretty thin there. So yeah, more of a depth thing for me for his team.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess for me, I see his bench a little bit stronger than you do, I guess, because I do think Jerry Jeudy is going to have a good season. I think he's going to start off a little slow, but have a good back of the season just because of the restricted practices with COVID and everything. I don't think he's going to have the ability to just hit the ground running. But I mean, the reports from camp are that he is just like destroying their secondary. And
is that him or is that their secondary?
It's the Broncos. So, I mean, it's not the worst. And then for me, I just have Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. Since they're both the Giants there, I just kind of group them as one. I think between the two of them, one of them is going to have to catch something because there's only so many options there on that field. So you got Golden Tate and you have Evan Ingram that could possibly cut in. But, and Saquon Barkley. See, you got me. I did it. I'm in. But I honestly think that between those two, one of them should work out to be at least a decent fill-in for whenever those bye weeks come. So I think that's just the discrepancy that I see there. But
yeah, I think he's going to be solid next few years. I think long-term, he may have some holes to fill.
He's got a little older of a roster for sure. But I mean, if Drew Brees can play forever, then he'll be fine. And then Jared Cook will just need some new titanium body parts, I'm sure, in the next couple of years. But I mean, other than that, he's pretty young.
Kamara Jacobs, both young. I think it's always interesting to see what happens in the running back field with their shelf life or not. Both of them getting hurt last year may just be anecdotal. I'm a little concerned about Kamara's long-term health. Football related.
But given that argument, he has A.J. Dillon, and Aaron Jones isn't going to last forever either. And I mean, they picked him pretty high in that draft. So the Packers, I don't know what they're doing in the draft, but hopefully they know what they're doing in the draft and making their decisions in favor of A.J. Dillon. But we'll see. All right, should we move on to yours truly, Eric Heater?
Let's get the defense.
All right. So, here's my defense. All right, so with my team, I think the reason that my team is going to hold up and come into second place this year has everything to do with COVID. My team has a much deeper bench than the rest of the competition this year. I don't see any true studs on my team, with the exception of possibly Devontae Adams this year, who I think could be the overall wide receiver one if the stars align correctly. But outside of him, there's no real flashy players on my team. The difference is I think that I can withstand injuries or COVID illnesses much better than other rosters. When you look at my quarterbacks, I have the 7th and 8th ranked quarterbacks, at least to me, respectively, with Josh Allen at 7, Matt Ryan at 8. And I think Matt Ryan is going to have a much better season this year than people are giving him credit for. He tends to be an example of a pendulum with his seasons, going back to 2012. Just because every 2 years or so, it seems they switch the offensive scheme on him. So the first year, he doesn't do so great. Then he gets the system under his belt. And in that second year is when he shines. So 2012, for example, he was ranked 7. This was the second year of that offensive scheme. Then in 2013, they switched offensive schemes. He dropped to 15 in the overall quarterback ranking. Second season, he jumped back up to 7 in 2014. In 2015, they're like, you know what? Let's challenge him. Let's switch the offensive scheme.
Keep him on his toes.
Keep him on his toes. And he dropped to 19. But you know what? It pissed him off. So in that second season, he got his highest rank of 2 overall. And they're like, you know what? Good for you, bud. Let's see if you can do it again.
Hate to see my franchise quarterback.
Right. Why, if it ain't broke, let's fix it. So he dropped to 15th that following year. And then in 2018, he was ranked number 2 again. Last season, they said, you know what, we're going to do it to you one more time. So he was the 11th ranked quarterback last year, meaning that if history repeats itself, I'm in for quite the ride this season. And I'm pretty stoked about it because I also got Calvin Ridley from you, Mark, in a pretty awesome trade where I got rid of this horrible player that I had on my team. You may or may not know him. His name is Tyreek Hill.
Player, maybe a horrible person. I think horrible player is tough.
Yeah, well, my bench is all about moral, upstanding people, all right? And I figured with your team of Darius Geis, among other criminals and such, I thought Tyreek Hill would have a better fit on your team. But anyway, I stole Calvin Ridley from you, and I also stole Jonathan Taylor.
We've got a good culture.
Yeah, I feel much better about my team. But what I was trying to say was that that pairing of Matt Ryan, that stack of Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley, I think that's going to be potential for some crazy weak numbers for me. But I don't want to skip over my running backs like you guys are all going to do. So my group of running backs, I think I'm describing them as a running back by committee approach this year. Because I think I have a solid group of running back 2s. And all of them, with the exception of Devin Singletary, I feel like have the potential upside to be running back 1s if everything works. So as long as only 1 or 2 of them hit, I'm golden. I might just have some problems figuring out week to week which one to play. But I trust my decision-making skills better than your guys. So that's what I'm making on. Devin Singletary, I think he is a solid running back 2, definitely a high running back 3, if nothing else, because he's consistent. He's not going to be flashy, but for me, I'm going to be playing him mostly in my flex. That's what I'm counting on him for. So I think for that, he's going to be solid. So I guess that brings me to my wide receivers. And this is where I really think things look good for me. I think this is my strongest position by far, because like it or not, I think I have the potential to be fielding 3 wide receiver ones this year with Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, and Terry McLaurin. And that brings me to a game that I've created for you, Mark.
Got a game for me?
Yeah, I think that can help me illustrate my point a little bit.
Here we go.
The game is called Calvin Ridley or Tyreek Hill.
I see. Okay. Is this off the field or on the field stuff?
On the field. I think we already know the off the field winner. And unfortunately, some of the off the field losers or Tyreek's family members. But anyway, Calvin Ridley or Tyreek Hill. Now, obviously, Tyreek Hill's been in the league a little longer than Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's been there for 2 seasons. So I decided to compare their first 2 season stats for this competition. Okay? So, of those 2, who had more targets in their first 2 seasons?
I have to think back to Tyreek as a young person.
So he's only been in the league for 4 years. He's not as old as you think he is. So 2016 is when he started. Yeah.
Okay. So he started with Alex Smith as quarterback. Was
Correct.
His first.
Correct.
Okay. Who had more targets? Ridley got a lot last year, then got hurt. Rookie year was a lot of if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I'm going to say Tyreek Hill.
Okay. You would be correct. Tyreek Hill had 188 total targets over those 2 seasons, whereas Calvin had 185. It was actually pretty even. And I know you said that you thought that Calvin Ridley's rookie season was kind of but he actually had 93 targets last year and 92 in his rookie year. They're almost identical.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got hurt for 3-4 games
This last season? Yeah. So, yeah, so that does play into it as well, of 3 or 4 less games. But the next question is, of those 2, who had more receiving yards?
in their first 2 years.
Yeah.
So my guess would be then Calvin got more receptions, I would think, through those targets. And I'm trying to think yard-wise. I'm going to give it to Calvin here.
Okay. You're wrong. But Tyreek Hill squeaked by him with 1,776 yards over those 2 seasons combined. Calvin had 1,687 receiving yards. But still, they're like neck and neck. They're like almost the same player, which may or may not be the point I'm trying to prove.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And then lastly, who scored more fantasy points last year? In our league.
So, off of memory, we kind of talked about this a little bit. I know that Calvin, or we were talking about Calvin earlier, I know that he's 25th receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I know Tyreek missing, I believe it was either 5 or 6 games last year. Something like that. He's gonna be, I'm gonna give it to Calvin. I think Tyreek Hill is later in the 20s-ish.
So what you're telling me is that you traded me Calvin Ridley and Jonathan Taylor and a 2nd-round pick for an inferior wide receiver? Is that what I'm hearing?
For a more injury-prone, not as good human being receiver.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying to me? Oh, I mean, yeah, you got Tariq Cohen too, but I mean, sure, you can have him. That's fine.
Tariq and Tyreek, I feel confident.
All right. Well, you were right. Calvin did have more points. They were close. Calvin missed 4 weeks with 197 points. Tyreek missed 5 weeks with 188 points. 88.3. So, yeah. And just because I like to raise the ante a little bit,
Raise the ante.
I have a couple more questions for you, but I'm going to throw in a couple more players. Okay? So this is just for their rookie seasons. This is just for their rookie season stats. We've got Terry McLaurin. We've got DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, and Calvin Ridley. So I threw in another one of my receivers and then another receiver that everyone says had a really good year last year. But of these... In DK, yeah. So of these 4 receivers, who has the highest average yards per catch in their rookie season?
Yards per catch. So, we got Tyreek, we got Ridley, we got Scary Terry, we got DK. Yards per catch. I'm going to go with Tyreek, but I assume that's wrong.
Yes, it is wrong. It is actually Terry McLaurin with 15.84 average yards per catch. The second was actually DK Metcalf with 15.52, and then Tyreek 14.8, and Calvin Ridley brings up the back of the pack at 13.75.
Telling me F1 McLaurin leading the pack.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. However, his name is Scary Terry. But yes. And last question.
Oh, okay.
And just so that it doesn't hurt so much, I'm going to take Tyreek Hill out of the equation. I'm just talking about Calvin Ridley, DK, and Terry McLaurin. Who had more touchdowns in their rookie season?
Who had more touchdowns? So, I am thinking that it is... I don't feel like any of them had a ton their rookie season. I kind of am feeling, I could be wrong with this, that they're all in that 4 category of touchdowns.
Well, I had the advantage of looking at the numbers, but so I will not give any emotion.
But they have to do that from memory. I'm going to just say, I'm going to go with Calvin. But I'm not confident in that.
Well, you're right and you are wrong.
I see. I don't see, actually, to be honest. No point in expanding.
So, all 3 tied at 7 touchdowns in their rookie season.
Okay.
Yeah.
7. Wow.
Yeah. So it's actually not a good illustration of anything other than just that's a really weird...
What's the coincidence?
Stat. Yeah. What's going on? What water are they drinking? But anyway, yeah, that was my game. All that to say, I think my wide receivers are going to be baller. I also have a notable bench. I have Deshaun Jackson and Marvin Jones, who I think are both adequate fill-ins whenever bye weeks happen. My buys are actually spread out pretty well, so I'm not missing too many people at the same time. Obviously, whenever the Falcons bye week is, I'm going to lose both of those guys. And that's the other reason, Mark, why I didn't take you up on your Todd Gurley trade opportunity, because I might as well just go on vacation that week if I did that.
Just knock it all out one time.
Yeah.
Great.
Sure. Yeah. All of our, whatever. Whoever gets to play me that week, lucky you. But just to finish talking about my team, I think my tight end position is pretty strong. I don't have one of the top 4 guys, but after last season in our league, I actually have the top 2 guys. Did you know that? Darren Waller came in second place in our scoring. He barely beat out George Kittle last year. Now, I'm not predicting him to be able to do that again going forward. I see a little regression there, but I do have Mike Gesicki that I picked up in a trade earlier in the offseason, and I think that
deal.
You did. I apparently get all of my good players from you. So, Yet you're still ranked number 1 in your mind. We'll see. And my mind. So I don't know.
Kyrie and Lockett helped out.
Yeah. Which both came from me. So.
That's awesome.
Oh, I see what you did there. Yikes. This is part of the commissioner responsibility, is to make sure that you help each other out and really secure both of you in a position of power in order to truly be respected and honored in your league. But anyway, Mike, you keep, I don't know, I keep losing track, but Mike Kosicki, put it down now. I think he's going to have a breakout year this year with Miami. I think he has the potential to really, he hit it off big at the end of last year. I think he could really hit the ground running. But it all depends on who the quarterback is. So if Ryan Fitzpatrick stays their starter, then I think I have a better chance at that coming to fruition. With Tua, I just don't have any data.
Enough.
Yeah, I have no idea. It could go either way. But yeah,
that's the security blanket. Enough.
Yeah. Just for the sake of fairness, let's go through our discrepancies here. So for QB, strength of position, you have me ranked number 1. That was really
I was
nice
going to
of
say,
you.
I completely agree with you. I love Josh Allen, puts up big numbers, the scrambling aspect of things. Well, I wanted a franchise quarterback, but big fantasy numbers, I think.
Yeah.
And Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. I think even Todd Gurley helps out of the backfield. I do think he has a big year this year.
I was going to say, I think I convinced myself that 7 is too low. I'm not sure why I thought that originally. I think it's just because I have literally no one behind them. I have Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I have Andy Dalton. And I picked up Alex Smith. So, but I'm starting to become a little too much of a Washington football team homer. Mm-hmm. But all that to say,
I'll give you Tyreek for him.
Okay.
Commitment.
I can do that. And throw in Lockett and it's a deal. But running back, we both have me at 3, meaning that you agree with my position. Wide receiver, there's a little discrepancy here. I think you just don't see them as good as I do, which we've exhausted already, so we won't talk about that anymore. Tight end, we have me ranked pretty low, I feel like, but that's just the perception. But tight ends, it changes so much year to year, with the exception of the top 1 or 2. And then, like I said, because I have such a deep bench, I feel like my flex position is one of the stronger ones. So you have me ranked at 5 for some strange reason. I have my rank
9 and 4. I have a lot of 9 and 4s.
I know. I was gonna say I think it has more to do with your projecting schedule flaws as opposed to anything else, because we're all tied for second basically.
I see what you're saying.
But
no flaws.
Yeah, none. Okay. Dynasty wise though, we both think that I have a pretty solid team going forward. Just based on the fact that I have so many young players on my team and a lot of depth. But that's enough about me. You ready to jump into Burkholder here?
Born ready.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're looking at Jared Burkholder. We've got a good amount of disparity. I had him coming in at 8th in our league with 5 wins. You have him at 5th, coming in with 8 wins. Let's kind of go through the summary of him first, and then I have a quick game with 1 question for you at the end.
Cool.
So be ready. Dak Prescott, I think we both were high on him. Number 2 last year, and I think he'll be up there again. Frankly, I kind of like him as even a real quarterback as well, or a franchise quarterback. Maybe not for as much money as he's asking for, but I think he's good. Then his running backs, we got them both ranked pretty low. And we agree. Mixon high, as long as he stays healthy. And then comes a slew of rookies at Swift. You've got Zach Moss And then he's got the Titans rookie running back as well, Evans. And Philip Lindsay is the other veteran in the mix.
Right, and we put DeAndre Swift at the top because that's how he has it in his schedule at the moment. I think I would honestly, it'll be interesting to see. I think his running back, too, for the season is most likely going to be either Philip Lindsay or Latavius Murray, whoever sticks out there the most. I think that's who's actually probably going to end up starting in his running back 2 spot.
I think Swift is going to not be the starter at the gate with carry on.
Right.
I do think Zach Moss will be the two, like him and Devin Singletary will be the starters. And it seems like they've been hearing good stuff out of camp, but we all know not to put too much weight on camp.
Right. They're all lying season right now. Zach Moss, I think, though, if they stick with the same strategies last year, he's going to be the goal line back. So the high touchdown potential, but probably not as many limited carries is the thought. And like you said earlier, Devin Singletary is more the receiving back. So we'll see how that splits up, but lots of unknowns.
The much debated wide receiver position for Jared. I have him an 8, you have him a 5.
Yeah.
We've got Julio Jones there, third last year in our league. Receiver, assumed to be the same. DJ Chark, 1,000-yard receiver last year, ranked number 21. Mm-hmm. And then got Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, 1-2 for the Texans. And then, George Kittle, can't argue with him. Love him. He's my 1. I haven't had a Kelsey. And then Jimmy G. I really don't like Jimmy G. I think he was 13th quarterback last year. I think he lost Emmanuel Sanders, Marquise Goodwin, and got Tavon Austin instead for an already thin receiver core. I'm pretty low on Jimmy G.
You don't like Dante Pettis?
I don't like him, not personally.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Jimmy G either, which is why I traded him away to Jared off my roster for Josh Allen. So thanks again. So I can't argue with you there.
So I think so if we're getting to the disparity, and I guess I have a question for you here in a second, but right. The disparity for me is quarterback, I think it drops off for a second, and I think receiver, he's not deep enough, and I think running back, he's got a lot of rookies. I don't know what will happen this year. Question for you.
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm ready.
You're going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. I think it's just a depth question with Jared. I think he has a good, solid starting lineup, but not much room for error. So,
yeah. All right, Eric. So that brings me to my question for us. I am breaking down specifically Jared's running back position to prove a point. It is a very charged question. We have...
These are my favorite kind of questions.
We have the top 5 running backs for this coming year, as I see it, in comparison to last year's top Christian McCaffrey. I said I wouldn't do it, but I always keep coming back because the number is astonishing. How many points, or I guess I'll word it this way. Who do you think scored more points?
Christian McCaffrey. I don't care what you say. That's my answer. No, tell me tell me the question.
We've got Philip Lindsay. So I'll give you his 5 running backs. Philip Lindsay, Joe Mixon, Swift, Zach Moss, and Darrington Evans.
Yeah, that's how you say it. So you're trying to tell me that he outscored 3 players who have never taken a snap in the NFL?
Very intimidating players that I thought were worth throwing in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, given that, so the real question is, did he beat out Joe Mixon and Philip Lindsay? I'm going to say...
Swift, Moss, and Evans are there too.
Yes. Yeah, yes, they are. I'm going to say he did beat them out. I'm still going Christian McCaffrey because my guess is that if you had thrown Latavius Murray in there, it would have messed up the situation. That's my thoughts. Finally.
To be honest, I forgot that Latavius Murray existed.
Okay. Sorry, Latavius.
Sorry. But Philip Lindsay, Joe Mixon and Swift, Moss, and Evans beat out Christian McCaffrey last year. I was stunned.
What were those points? Do you have that?
So Philip Lindsay was 241.5 points.
Okay.
Mixon was 294, adding together for a 535.5 total versus McCaffrey's 520.6 total.
Okay, still pretty close.
His top 5 barely beat out Christian McCaffrey.
That's the thing with Philip Lindsay too. I think he was like ranked 19th, something like that. So yeah, I think he's sneaky. I think he could really benefit Jared possibly this year. We'll see.
He did have a lot better season than I thought he did. We do have Melvin Gordon coming down, which is why I'm a little bit lower on him. But every team in the NFL seems to be going to this 2 running back approach to things. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, and I mean, he's always ran against somebody else too. There's always been 2 running backs in Denver. So the difference is now it's not Royce Freeman. So I think that's a plus for Denver, but you're right. It could be a mark against Philip Lindsay. So.
And I have a little bit of a hot take, but I'll come back to it at the end. It's probably a medium hot take about his team, but we'll cover that.
All right, so we'll hold off there. Okay, so that just leaves Connor in our division, last and least this season.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, buddy. I really didn't want to do this because I feel like your drafting strategy is actually really strong. But I think this year is going to be rough. I think going forward, I think you have a lot more potential, and with the right moves, you could definitely move up quickly. But for this upcoming season, you actually, Mark, have him ranked higher than I do. You have him ranked 9th. I have him ranked 12th. But as you already saw our breakdown of projections, we're all pretty evenly dispersed with the exception of Mark's 0-13 for P. Knower. But
sure, I kind of walked back into that. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's next episode where Mark gets to try to remove that foot from his mouth. Yeah, I mean, so for Connor's roster here, let's start at the top. Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford, I think those are a solid pairing of quarterbacks. I think they're also both they're not as old as people think they are. They've been around for a while, but they're in there I think they're both 31, 32, somewhere in there. They've got a couple real good seasons left, I'm sure. Also, Matt Stafford got injured last year, and I think this next season he's going to be much more effective, which is why we put him at 3 and 4 in our QB rankings. For running back, we have him both pretty low. Mark has him at 11. I have him at 10th. And I'm looking at it, and I think it has everything to do with depth, not necessarily the specific people. Because I think Kenyon Drake is going to ball out this year. I think he is going to definitely have the potential to be top 10 in running back, maybe even top 5 if everything fell according to plan for them. But after that, it gets real messy real fast. J.K. Dobbins is going to be great going forward, but I'm not sure that he can take over for Mark Ingram at the beginning of the season. I think halfway through the season is when we're going to start seeing Connor use J.K. Dobbins more often and actually getting some solid points from him. But to start the season, right now he has Sony Michel in his running back 2 slot, and I am not a big fan of Sony Michel, not necessarily because he's a bad runner, but because he's on a team that he can easily be written out of the game script for sure. Yeah, Bill Belichick has ruined many a fantasy team with his running back.
It'll drop you hot.
Decision making. Yeah.
You have a meteoric drop at times.
There you go. Now you used it correctly. Meteors go down. Yeah. Then he has an okay wide receiver in Michael Thomas. No, I mean, obviously that is his best player. Michael Thomas is going to have a solid year again. I don't think he's going to be the overall wide receiver 1 this year, but he definitely could be. I think the likelihood of him being able to repeat is not like without somebody else doing something crazy too. I just don't think he's going to be number 1. But
Emmanuel Sanders being in the fold, like
right?
He's gonna
exactly.
He's
No,
on my team.
yeah, exactly. Way to throw that one in there, Mark. No, I'm talking more about he's going to fall real far to like 2 or 3 for the year. But Keenan Allen, I think, has a lot of potential to be good. He's been great in the past, obviously. If he gets injured, that's a problem. And sometimes he just disappears. But they switched their quarterback. He's now got Tyrod Taylor, which means that's probably going to be less passing than when they had Phillip Rivers there. But not that Phillip Rivers was like heating it up there, but at the end. But I think overall they're going to play a much safer ground game.
Especially if Herbert ever takes over this year.
Right, exactly. So there's just a lot of unknowns at quarterback there. That's my only hesitancy with him. But I think as a wide receiver 2/3, I think he's going to be great. Michael Pittman, I think he's going to struggle at the beginning of the season just because he's a rookie. He's not going to have the time to be able to develop like maybe in other past seasons, but I think he is a solid starter going forward in years ahead, and maybe he can contribute in the back half of this year. I am pretty stoked about his tight ends. I know I have him ranked 10th here, just because that ranking is based on what they have accomplished before, but I have a pretty hot take surrounding both of his tight ends as well. I will also hold off for a few more moments, but either way, I think they're both going to they have breakout potential this year in Hayden Hurst and Jonnu Smith. And I mean, I think that's mostly what I have for him. I didn't really talk about his other notable wide receivers on his bench. Curtis Samuel, I
like him.
Yeah, I think he actually has the potential to break into his starting lineup there. I'd almost put Curtis Samuel there instead of Michael Pittman, personally.
I would. I think he has it this way on Sleeper right now.
Yeah, but honestly, that might just be automatic fill-in from the rookie draft too. So I don't think we can take it too seriously just yet. But yeah, Curtis Samuel will probably be his wide receiver 3. And with Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball now, I think that has the potential. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 of that team for sure, right behind DJ Moore. So I think there's a lot of potential there. Traquan Smith, he's going to have some big games, but I don't really see him as anything more than a bye-week filler. Or playing a hot hand matchup.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything you have to add to that? Oh, sorry, I just asked you a question then interrupted you.
I was going to say, I like Curtis Samuel. I think for him, I think we're both in agreement depth is his biggest thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of projecting out, like, if everything goes well, sneaking with 5 wins, catching some people at the right weeks. I think that Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen, there's still that potential that's the best duo in our league, but we also have to see what it looks like without Phillip Rivers back there. So I think some weeks he's going to be real hot, do real well. He hit on it. I think he's got some good studs moving forward between Dobbins, Michael Pittman, and they mature a little bit.
But with the right rebuild strategy, I think he could definitely, in the next couple seasons, make this a solid contender. Just get rid of some of that trash. So I don't know what that means, but on that note, I'm gonna end this episode with some Heaters hot takes.
He's on fire!
So, Mark, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'll let you round it out to end it. I think you have 2 hotter takes. So
you'll start with the lukewarm take, and then I'll bring it home. Got it.
Lukewarm, barely reaching the cusp of hot, in my opinion.
Tepid.
You've got tepid. So this goes to
tepid
Jared.
takes.
Tepid takes. Oh, that was good alliteration too.
Right?
So this goes to Jared. I think this is kind of another point to our disparity a little bit. He has Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, which I kind of didn't realize are 1 and 2 when I was first looking at his roster and the Houston Texans with Deshaun tossing around. So I personally do not like either of them as football players. I think that they're both kind of injury-prone, semi-similar, pretty similar builds. My take, done a lot of leading in, my take is that neither of them will finish as a wide receiver 2 for fantasy, though they're 1 and 2 for the Texans.
I don't think it's as lukewarm as you think it is. I think that's a pretty hot take because I think it's a pretty dumb take. But we will see how it plays out. The ball has to go somewhere, Mark.
That makes sense. That's a good argument.
But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, though. It's like it's definitely going to be a different looking team this year than last year.
I think they're just going to feed David Johnson after the very poor decision that should have been made
right.
to trade for him, that they're going to have to be like, all right, well, now let's prove it. Let's just give him the ball on every single down and see what happens.
Just going to see David Johnson like hurling on the field every week. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, so I actually have 2 hot takes. One of them is for my own team because I am vain. And then the other one is the one I alluded to earlier. So I'm going to start with the one I alluded to earlier. I think that both Hayden Hurst and Jonnu Smith are going to end up breaking the top 10 tight ends in fantasy this year. I really do. I think they both have the potential to break out. I think that Jonnu Smith could play a Mark Andrews-like role in the Titans offense this year. Just based on the ability of those 2 players, I think I see a lot of similarities. And then I think the tight ends are going to see what the Ravens did last year and continue to be run heavy, but then sprinkle in a little bit more passing than they did last year, just to mix it up. And my last hot take. Thank you. I was a little startled, but I'm ready now. All 3 of my starting wide receivers are going to end up wide receiver 1s for the 2020 fantasy season.
If mine was tepid, yours is meteoric.
All right. And starting next week, we're putting a ban on the word meteoric for these episodes.
I'm all for it.
But I think Mark's worked it out of his system. So
yeah, it's gone.
You want to say it one more time? This is your last chance.
Meteoric.
See you guys next week.